Y'all, this House versus NCAA settlement finally got approved by Judge Claudia Wilkin. It's going to be shenanigans. You know it is. Okay, let's talk about the framework and let's talk about some athlete-specific effects that we need to keep in mind. Okay, so under the new framework, the key features are $2.8 billion paid to past athletes from 2016 to 2021 that did not have an opportunity to participate in NIL. That's going to be paid by all D1 schools at various degrees, whether they are Power 4, Group of 5, or the rest of D1, and the NCAA as well. Okay. We also know that $20.5 million in payments, the rev share, will be available for institutions to pay athletes directly in whatever proportions they think are appropriate, with most of that money going to football athletes, basketball athletes, men and women. Now, it's $20.5 million that's available to be funded. Okay, still a huge issue on how much of that money will actually be funded. That's going to continue to create the haves and have-nots. Some schools are going to be able to pay $20.5 million to athletes off the rip. Some schools, especially when you get to Group of 5, okay, or the rest of D1, a couple $1 million, zero, available to allocate across all the athletes. So that will continue to create the have and have-not scenario. Okay, we know that roster caps are going to replace scholarship limits, and that had a negative consequence on walk-on athletes. They did get some relief, not complete relief. We'll see how walk-on athletes survive. Okay, the College Sports Commission will now pick up a lot of the regulations duties that the NCAA used to do. Okay, so they're going to oversee NIL agreements. They're going to determine what rules violations look like, who rule violators are, and what the consequences are associated with rules violations. We'll see if tampering even matters anymore. Okay. Interestingly, College Sports Commission will report to the Power 4 conference commissioners, not the NCAA. NCAA is continuing to become less relevant. So the NCAA, according to President Charlie Barker, will focus on providing a world-class academic and athletic experience, whatever that means. Okay. So that's the framework. Okay. So what's going to happen to athletes? Well, I think that degree progression, or even the relevance of a degree, will continue to decline. Which is probably good news for Kirby Smart, since he graduates less than 50% of his football athletes anyway. So, will it matter? Okay. Now, the whole thing with antitrust, and there's a lot of pressure on athletes wanting to extend their eligibility. So now we're going to start to have more tension between high school athletes trying to get into college sports and these athletes who make it and just want to hang on forever, I guess. Okay. So I guess this will become the minor league. You don't make the big leagues, we'll just stay in college as long as we can. So we have to figure out what happens with that. High school players were already getting squeezed. I think this is going to create additional squeezing of high school players if we can't get some sort of ruling that indicates what the scope of the eligibility is. Okay, so we will need Congress to weigh in on that at some point. Okay, we'll need Congress to weigh in on eligibility. We'll need Congress to weigh in on preemption of state laws. So we got state laws all across the map. Every state wants to win. So they're going to put in laws that say you can ignore this rule, you can ignore that rule, do what you want. University, institution in our state to make sure we win. So what's interesting about that is that everybody wants to win. And now everyone recognizes that winning means compensating players. And they're passing laws to make sure that players can be compensated, while at the same time being mad at athletes for saying, hey, we compensating, right? And it is just the weirdest dynamic ever. Okay, but that's where we are. I think non-revenue generating sports athletes are going to be at risk. Some programs are just going to institutions going to shut down some non-revenue generating sports. Okay, which I think puts the Olympic sports at risk. So Americans love to dominate the Olympics, but if you're not creating Olympic athletes through your NCAA pipeline, because those programs are being sunset because we now have to pay for football and basketball, then that has other consequences as well. So, is it good for athletes? Depends on which athlete you are. Depends on which school you go to. Okay. Who's running college sports now? Is it the NCAA? Is it CSC? Is it Deloitte? Who's running college sports? So I think what we know is that $2.8 billion will be paid, 20 point to previous athletes, 20.5 million will be available to be funded if that is possible by institutions. Many institutions will not make that bar. Almost no group of 5 schools will even get close to it. The remainder of D1 schools, very little, so those athletes will not benefit. Okay. Transfer portal is still a thing. People still jumping, chasing dreams. Have we gotten a good thing here? Have we settled anything here? I don't feel settled. Do you feel settled? I don't know. I think we got to decide what we want from college sports. And whether we just want to circumvent college altogether and just have minor leagues. Okay, so NFL, UFL, college. Everybody getting paid. Or we're going to get to the point that colleges can have teams that don't have athletes that are even enrolled in school. You know, I'm not feeling great about it. It'll be what it's going to be. And I'll continue to, provide commentary. There's so many angles that I have not even begun to discuss. But I just wanted to give you some initial context and some initial perspective on where my head was around this and whether we've done a good thing or not. From an athlete's perspective. Have we even done a good thing from the NCAA's perspective? From college sports perspective? Or have we satisfied 70 schools and kept them from losing a whole bunch of billions of dollars if the case went to trial? Expect shenanigans. Expect institutions to figure out how to compensate players above the cap. Expect it. Expect players to continue to jump from school to school to school chasing dollars. Expect it. Expect that a lot of those players are going to lose. Expect that. Expect that the transfer portal will continue to leave people on mama's couch. Okay. Expect that some coaches are not going to be pushing players into the portal more aggressively because they're going to continue to expect to reset their teams every year. And so loyalty on both ends is going to just continue to be dwindled down to nothing. So it'll be interesting. And for me, I am I don't know, meh. Let me know what you think.